The first rays of the morning sun stretched across the village of Adam, painting the thatched roofs in shades of gold. Roosters crowed from every corner, women swept their compounds with palm brooms, and children chased one another barefoot through the dusty paths. It was a village where everyone knew everyone, where laughter echoed beneath the giant baobab tree, and where the wisdom of the elders was treasured above riches. Among the villagers lived a young hunter named Kofi. Kofi was tall, broad-shouldered, and fearless. Every hunt seemed to end in victory. Whether it was an antelope, a wild boar, or a deer, he never returned empty-handed. The villagers admired him, and their constant praise slowly filled his heart with pride. "You are the greatest hunter our village has ever seen," they often said. At first, Kofi smiled humbly. But as the months passed, his humility disappeared. He began to believe that he was better than everyone else. One blazing afternoon, after spending hours in the forest, Kofi emerged carrying a large antelope across his shoulders. Sweat glistened on his forehead, but his face wore a proud smile. As he entered the village, people gathered around him. "Kofi has returned. Our brave hunter. What a magnificent catch." The praises flowed like a river, and Kofi walked even taller. Near the entrance of the village sat an old woman named Momanola. Time had bent her back, and age had covered her hair with silver. Her clothes were worn, and beside her rested a carved wooden walking stick. For 2 days she had eaten nothing. When she saw Kofi approaching, she smiled gently. "My son," she called in a weak but kind voice, "may I have just a small piece of meat? Hunger has visited my home, and I have nothing left to eat." The villagers became silent. Kofi stopped. Instead of compassion, a cold laugh escaped his lips. "You," he sneered. "What use is fine meat to someone who is already waiting for death? Go and beg from someone else." His laughter rang through the air. The old woman's smile faded. She lowered her eyes and quietly said, "My son, never mock those who are weak today. The wind changes direction without warning." Kofi waved his hand dismissively. "Save your old sayings for someone who believes them." Without another glance, he walked away. The villagers watched in silence, ashamed that no one had spoken on the old woman's behalf. Days passed. Then weeks. One morning, Kofi entered the forest before sunrise. He tracked the footprints of a massive buffalo, determined to return with another trophy. After hours of searching, he finally found it grazing near a stream. He raised his spear. The buffalo sensed danger. With incredible speed, it charged. Kofi threw his spear, but it missed. The enormous animal crashed into him, tossing him into the air like a dry leaf caught in a storm. He landed heavily among broken branches. Pain shot through his body. His leg was badly broken. The buffalo disappeared into the forest, leaving him alone. He shouted for help. No answer came. Night fell. The forest became alive with strange sounds, the cries of owls, the distant roar of lions, and the rustling of unseen creatures. Fear, something Kofi had never known, wrapped itself around him. The next day, hunger gnawed at his stomach. Thirst burned his throat. His strength faded with every passing hour. For the first time in his life, the mighty hunter realized how helpless he truly was. As the sun began to set on the second day, he heard the sound of footsteps. Slow. Careful. Steady. Out from the bushes appeared Momanola. She had entered the forest to gather healing herbs. The moment she saw Kofi lying on the ground, she hurried toward him. "My son," she whispered. Kofi could barely lift his head. His eyes filled with tears. I am sorry." The old woman did not remind him of his cruel words. She simply smiled. Using leaves from the forest, she cleaned his wounds. She gave him water from a nearby stream and carefully wrapped his broken leg with strips of bark. Then, despite her age and frail body, she stayed beside him through the night. The following morning, she sought help from nearby woodcutters, who carried Kofi back to the village. When the villagers saw who had rescued him, they were astonished. The very woman he had mocked had become the one who saved his life. A few days later, after Kofi recovered enough to stand, he gathered the entire village beneath the ancient baobab tree. With tears streaming down his face, he walked to Momanola. Before everyone, he knelt. "Mother," he said, his voice trembling, "I laughed when you were hungry. I insulted you when you asked for help. Yet when I was helpless, you saved my life without asking for anything in return. I do not deserve your kindness. Please forgive me." Momanola placed her wrinkled hand gently on his head. "My son," she said softly, "kindness is like a seed. Wherever it is planted, one day it bears fruit. Never allow pride to blind your heart." From that day onward, Kofi changed. He shared his haunts with widows. He helped the elderly carry firewood. He fed hungry children before feeding himself. The villagers no longer remembered him as the strongest hunter. Instead, they remembered him as the man who learned that true strength is found in kindness, not pride.